I'd like to hear from the member for Holt.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. How is the Albanese Labor government getting the NDIS back on track, making the scheme sustainable for the future generations and helping ensure every dollar is going to participants who need it?
Give the call to the order. The Leader of the Opposition will cease interjecting. Order. Order. Members on my left. The member for Barker won't interject before I call the Minister. The Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme and the Minister for Government Services has the call.
Members of this House know that the National Disability Insurance Scheme is changing lives. It is perhaps one of the best achievements of our parliament in the 21st century. There's now 650,000 people receiving individual packages of support. There's now about 400,000 people who say that they earn their main income for working in the NDIS. And it is an achievement of all sides of politics. And it started by bipartisan consensus, and we intend to try and keep that. However, it is true that the scheme is moving off track. The experience recorded by participants is that it isn't always consistent, it's not always equitable, and it's not always transparent. There are some unethical service providers, a minority, who are taking advantage of participants in the scheme.
The Manager of Opposition Business.
Indeed, it also faces the risk of becoming the only lifeboat in the ocean. And what I mean by that is that the NDIS is now viewed to try and solve all issues for all people with disability in Australia. As a result, it's been growing faster than projected. Now, since the election, we've been getting on with improving the scheme. We've created a fraud task force. We've put people with disability in leadership positions in the agency. And also, we've commenced a root and branch review which concluded in December of last year. Also significantly, our National Cabinet of the Prime Minister and Premiers agreed to achieve an 8% target growth in 3 years. Also, the National Cabinet's agreed that one way that we improve the future of the scheme is to build services for Australians with disability outside the NDIS, and that we would introduce legislation in the first half. And I'm pleased to advise the House that today we have introduced the draft bill. This bill is the result of a year and a half of consultation, of talking to people about how the scheme can be best improved, and I acknowledge the interest of members of the House in the scheme because I've received 782 individual matters from MPs about issues to do with the NDIS. The bill contains a series of initial measures, how we can have better planning, better assessment, better cost controls and build supports outside the scheme. So the bill is important, but it is not a fait accompli, and we don't put it forward on the basis that we don't want to hear the voices of the opposition and people with disability in coming weeks. There will be anxiety amongst people with disability whenever you talk about changing the scheme. The scheme, for all its imperfections, is the best chance that many families have and people have of having a better life. So in adopting the process of change, I want to reassure participants on the scheme, people who work in the area and the broader Australian people, that we will work through these in a consultative, collaborative manner. But I also say that the option of doing nothing is not an option. We say to people with disability, we won't seek change in fear, but we shouldn't fear to change. This scheme's too important for future generations.